That was a little whistle for you from the birds. Good morning there. If there are any Irish people able to listen these days because of the upending of electricity and Wi-Fi and even water, because much of the water is provided through electric pumping, and the supplies of food can be compromised. Refrigeration won't be a problem because it's pretty cold over there. It's amazing how I heard the story of an Irish lady drinking 2 cups of water that were brought by a friend, and she was dying of thirst. She didn't have water, not dying, she was like parched, and she didn't have water. You know, think about that in Ireland with all the rain we have, that you could have a water problem that quickly because of a storm. When things are far away from us, obviously nothing is too far away now with this media. We can be visually connected and audibly connected worldwide, and not just with our imagination and with a letter that comes 2 months later. So we're pretty close, but on the other hand, when it's people you know, stories you hear about, it's quite impressive to realize how fragile our world is. As much as we think it's very solid and we're very secured, and if that's true even of the physical world, imagine of the infrastructure that's built on it physically, but then imagine the infrastructure that's built on it in terms of, how would you say, like economy. Things can change very quickly. Imagine the tsunami, the havoc it wreaked for all the economies, especially microeconomies of farmers and fishermen and people along a coastline. When a tsunami hits, their house that seemed to be fine for their climate, and now it's too little. It's gone. These 2 palm trees in the center of the screen, if you go up to the top of their leaves, in between them, that's where we were yesterday, up in that plateau for that beautiful sunrise. So gorgeous with all that special light effect with the clouds. And now we're here again. A little east wind blowing that's chill, but not bitter chill. We have a very interesting psalm this morning. Here I am, Lord, I come to do your will. An extraordinary posture of the soul, of the mind, of the heart, of the person. Here I am, Lord, I come to do your will. It's very much the word of the prophets in a way, in the time of the exile. Because it's also within a context. If we just scroll down a verse or two, we see, sacrifice or oblation you wish not, but ears open to obedience you gave me. Because one thing is to do the ritual sacrifices in the temple, and another thing is to be doing God's will in family, in relationships with neighbors, in trade, in truth-telling. And we could do certain rituals to look like we're devout, but if our heart is not right with our neighbor, with the person beside us, with the person who lives with us, how can we live together? How can we pray? How can we turn to God who created all of us and each of us? in a certain sense, we don't control the climate. Maybe a little bit of influence, sure, the way we treat fossil fuels and other things, or impacts with the increasing industrialization. But in general, a lot of the things that happen are outside of our control completely, especially the individual's control. And then to accept this, that God is going to be present, He is always present with us, and He will give us His blessing. We also know that God knows about all these things, so God allows them. It's not that God does an evil thing against us, but He's there with us, and He's asking us to rise to that occasion, to respond in His image and likeness, to respond with His goodness and creativity, with the proper priorities, putting the person beside us as the greatest treasure that I need to take care of in the time of need and trouble. These are the big sacrifices. Ears open to obedience you gave me. What a word. An ear open to obedience you gave me. You often hear of that, people who have shut ears to people who are requesting help. And your ears, my ears are open to you, Lord, for what you want from me. It's an incredible prayer, really. It's amazing. Burnt offerings or sin offerings you sought not. Then I said, behold, I come. I just love this. It's so authentic. It's so profound, so clean. It's so true. Nothing murky about it. Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will. And it's genuine adoration. And I am your witness, Lord, in my family. The small little assembly of the family around the kitchen table, at the fireplace, some recreation activity. I did not restrain my lips, as you, O Lord, know. I spoke of your faithfulness and love. Imagine parents, grandparents telling their little children, their grandchildren, about the faithfulness of God's love, how God is faithful. As we grow older in life, we've gone through moments and we discover God's fidelity. And to be able to tell that with the love of family, the love of parents, the love of grandparents to children, so the children receive that confidence to trust in God, because there are enough things that will try to shake it, and enough vibes in the culture that will try to shake it. Just like it was shaken for Eve and Adam in Genesis chapter 3. It's the exact opposite spirit. It's the good spirit. Your faithfulness and your salvation I have spoken of. And to speak it of to somebody who's also very sick in hospital, to speak of God's salvation and faithfulness. To speak of God's salvation and faithfulness to somebody who's bereaved. And they may be very concerned, very worried. The closeness, the warmth, the proximity for a child who has lost a parent. To speak of God's faithfulness then in the big assembly. When we're asked, when we need to stand up, when the fashion of the time is to abandon God, not to show up in the assembly, not even to show up on Sundays, or on Shabbat, or whatever Friday, the day you go to worship. Today we are in that part of that type of mood when people don't actually even feel they need to show with their physical presence that they trust in God, they believe in God, they love God. That's one of the great things about Sunday practice for us Christians is the fact that we're making a very, very big statement. You know, you often have to walk the talk, you know, put your money where your mouth is. Well, put your body where your faith is. Go with the assembly. Okay, you can pray everywhere, but the assembly needs your witness. The assembly needs our witness, needs us to be there. You know, it's very easy to send excuses, to excuse ourselves from going to certain events. We're tired, and we tell people, I'm sorry, I have a conflict. Imagine all the time telling God I have a conflict. Like people who can smugly, in their health, I'm not talking about people who are sick, who are very sick. We're not talking about the time of a major disaster when the roads are blocked. We're talking about when people have cars and roads and villages and churches, and they show up once a year, twice a year. Is that opening our mouth in the full assembly? Hey guys, I shouldn't be chiding. That's not the spirit of Sunrise Stroll and Chat. I fell into that now. But I can't think you can get the idea, right? You can get the idea. To be able to open our mouth in the great assembly, well, first of all, simply to be there. I'd never thought of putting that together before like that. It just came out. Here I am, Lord, I come to do your will. I didn't plan on staying this long with this psalm, but I relish it. And then these are the words that the letter to the Hebrews reads on Jesus' lips entering the world, addressing the Father. Here I am, I come to do your will. And more of these words are also quoted really beautifully. It's powerful. And then we go to the Gospels and we find Jesus seemingly dismissing his own family, but declaring that actually family bonds, as important as they are, fade in front of doing God's will. Which is a very important thought. And it actually does reflect the first 3 commandments come before the 4th commandment. And that's not a surprise. It's not just mathematical. It's just the order of reality. We're created. And we happen to be created in a family. So the Creator is the primary. Our Redeemer also. Let's leave it like that for today, people. Quite a few thoughts there to provoke us, to stir us. God bless you. See you later, alligators.